that is going to focus on education, particularly on Rwanda Polytechnic. What has it done to boost Rwanda's goal to achieve a skills-based economy? But let me give you a brief background on how Rwanda Polytechnic came to be. In 2017, December, the cabinet adopted a merger of all former integrated polytechnic regional centers, IPRCs, to form Rwanda Polytechnic. This move was designed to enhance standards and efficiency in technical and vocational education and training. On March 21st, 2019, Rwanda Polytechnic held its second graduation ceremony with over 2,000 graduating students awarded diploma and advanced diplomas. But 464 of those were just female, the majority of which composed over 1,624 were male. And we're asking the question tonight, why is it that this type of form of education is still dominated by male? And there are quite a number of questions that we're going to be asking as well, which also includes, do you think the labor market in Rwanda has done enough to welcome IPRC graduates? Send in your comments and your opinions, and you can see I'll be ready to read some of them here. I've seen some of them coming through, and then be sure that I will include yours in some that will be read tonight. Shortly, I'll be introducing my panelists. All right, to help us understand this discussion that we have tonight, have the pleasure to be joined by Dr. James Gashumba, Vice Chancellor, Rwanda Polytechnic. Thank you so much for joining us, Doctor.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And of course, we also have Rita Clemens Mutabazi, Principal, IPRC Tumba. Thank you so much. You're an engineer, actually.
Yes.
Engineer,
yes,
Rita.
Engineer.
Thank you so much for joining us. Then I have Kalangwa Ishimwe Roger, IPRC graduate. Yeah, and he's a brewer at Scores Breweries Limited. You also probably be able to tell us how you got to, into Scores and brewery from IPRC.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for joining us. And someone who is going to be analyzing, some say balancing the boat, is James Mnyaneza, a journalist and analyst. Thank you so much, James, for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you're good. Yeah,
sure.
Had a good weekend.
Yeah.
So let's start it off with the doctor. Help us, let's make sense of this merger of 8 colleges. Why? Do you think it was necessary? And help us understand what it has achieved since 2017 December.
Thank you, Ethan. Yes, many people ask what was the reason. It was not just a haphazard action by government. It was because it was extremely necessary after looking at the landscape of where we are going, looking at the world trends, knowing that the labor market is rapidly changing around the world. And when we look further afield to see what is happening in other countries, which are a bit ahead of us, we realized we have to make some changes. And some of those changes were to recognize that more and more the workforce is becoming very technical, very high-tech, and a lot of the jobs that we have today are going to change. They are going to change, and therefore we have to do something in terms of teaching and learning. Otherwise, we'll be just dinosaurs. We'll be training people who will be going there in the labor market and finding that the jobs we trained them for don't exist. So that was the major reason. But another reason was to be wise in our using our resources, to be more focused in how we plan, and that would be, it's much easier to do it under one umbrella, under one leadership, under one vision than having 8 small polytechnics scattered around. So them being together under one management is helping us focus our strategies better. And she's one of the principals, yes. And the 8 principals come together in the senior management committee, and we think together and we consult together and look at what we can achieve to get Rwanda on the track to achieving the knowledge economy that we desire. Thank you.
We've seen mergers, probably James Mnyandeza will chip in here, the merger, the University of Rwanda. We've seen sort of endless restructuring. Aren't we likely to have the same with the IPRC or Rwanda Polytechnic? Help us make sense of this, and probably Rita will help.
Okay. Actually, there's nothing to fear from doing things and then you perfect them as you go along. I think that's what makes us Rwanda unique. In Rwanda unique, we don't wait for all the goalposts to be in perfect line to start. We start, we know where we are going, as long as we don't lose our focus, and other things we put them in place as we go. So University of Rwanda was a kind of a new way of doing things, and there have been in English they call it teething problems. You know, when a baby is growing their teeth, there are problems. They're inevitable. If you say, I don't want to have those pains, you'll never start. So it's good, and for us, because we are coming a bit after them, we are learning from the few mistakes.
And of course you're there.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah. But indeed, University of Rwanda has dug very good foundation. And remember, when you're building a big building, you start by going down first. Dig. Yeah. And the bigger the vision, the deeper you have to dig. And people, the onlookers, will actually say, where is the house? We don't see. They've been digging and instead of building. Yes. So, yes, I have no fear at all that we, like University of Rwanda, a lot of things were new, and they've made good progress. Rwanda is now in its rankings. They are doing very well, and we want to do likewise. Mistakes will be there, and we shouldn't be fearful of them, as long as we know that we can correct them. And we have the goodwill from our leaders, from our minister, from central government to help us in resources and in, I think we are on a good track. I'm pleased. Sure. Where we've reached. We are only 15 months. Although you are talking of December, we really I didn't get into my job until middle of February. So we've been working as Rwanda Polytechnic for only 15, 16 months, and a lot of milestones so far, which we shall talk about.
You're going to tell me that. Yeah. But he talks about, one vision and, sharing resources and idea. Why can't we share the resources when you are independent? I think independence works better than, bringing the entire 8 colleges under one umbrella.
Thank you. I would say yes, and I would say no. Yes, because when you are working together as an institution, you are not in that, if I can say, competition. Let's say, yes, you are sharing resources. Sometimes you have same programs. If you look around at how our programs are structured, you find that same programs exist within different colleges, but we don't seem to have a pressure of being in a negative competition. We seem to be together to share resources in terms of if you have a laboratory, if you have a workshop, if you have teaching staff that you can borrow, that works much better. Yes, again, I would say no, because if you are independent, you tend to, I would say that you tend to focus on you as
Yes.
as
Individual goals.
individual,
Yeah.
yes, and yet you lose the bigger sight of looking ahead, looking at what you can achieve together.
Yes.
I would give an example of if we are talking now about coming up with new programs, it's much easier to do it together rather than when an institution was focusing on developing, even reviewing its own curricula and so on. It was quite, we would use more resources, it would be time consuming, and also later you would want to catch up with others while they have gone ahead. So they have pros and cons, and what I can say, I would say also that we are much better off than how we were before. Yes.
Aren't you seeing, foreseeing bureaucracy in here, in this merger?
Well, that's possible, but it can also help streamline. But my major concern for me, it's more about the end result, the output, the quality of the training, the graduates that we get from this new system. Because when I think the country set out to promote TVET as an ideal channel through which young runners will be trained, as opposed to what the conventional primary school, secondary, university, which is mostly theory. So the idea was to, one, make TVET, hands-on skills, practical skills, relevant and acceptable in the market, and to tell people, look, actually you should encourage your children to pass to go through this path for a bright future. And young people, please, this is the right way to go, out of their own choice. And that was about maybe 10 years ago. So at this time, it's the right time to say, to assess, to look back and say, where are we? Well, it is okay to keep, doing the institutional reforms to streamline things, but where are we today in terms of the broader picture? I think there was a recent survey that was conducted, and the results were released, I think, sometime earlier this month. And for me, the results were shocking. I was thinking and hoping that actually TVET is actually going forward. If you look at the results, the findings, it's the reverse. Because you have a situation where I think it was WDA and HEC that did the joint tracer survey and employability and employers' satisfaction about the graduates that we get from TVET system. And by TVET we mean vocational schools, technical schools, then Polytechnic level graduates, vis-a-vis university graduates. And university graduates from the survey are doing better in the market.
Interesting.
The conventional, ordinary university graduates are doing better as opposed to TVET graduates. Just to share a few numbers here. Employment rate. The findings were that TVET graduates are employed at the rate of 49.9%. Now compare that with the university graduates. University graduates are employed at the rate of 63.4%.
Sure.
Right? Now, employment within 6 months of graduation. The figures indicate that TVET graduates are employed at the rate of 66% within 6 months of graduation. University graduates are employed at 76%. There's another, of course, indicator. They also looked at employer satisfaction.
Sure.
TVET slightly aged
university
graduates. TVET is 78.2%, and then versus 74.6%. So my question is, are we moving? Are we actually progressing? What is going on? Because at the end of the day, a young person, a parent, looking at these results, look at these numbers, going to ask themselves, why should my kid go to a TVET institution? And yet the employability rate is actually falling. So I'm sure those in the sector know better in terms of what the numbers mean and what could be the factors behind this. But my understanding is that could it be that we are just training people with actually belief that we're imparting them with the right skills, hands-on skills?
Or could it be that they're creating their own jobs instead of going out to
because
seek?
You need to have the right skills to be able to create the jobs.
Sure.
Now, if you cannot, because creating your own jobs, it involves so many other things. It involves the capital. It involves the broader how do you, there's an entire ecosystem around that. But first get this person to have the right skills, And I think probably we are getting to a point where we are like, okay, we're saying, okay, we have the TVET system in place, they're doing a good job, but maybe something's going on and we are not, we are not really fixing it. For instance, funding. How much are we putting in TVET system? We want 60% of young Rwandan youth to go through TVET as a pathway to a successful, bright future. How much are you putting in that area? And I think they're getting something like the entire TVET, Rwanda Polytechnic family, the entire, and it includes the
8 of them.
A lot. No, there are 8 polytechnics, but they also run so many TVETs. And I think there are more than 120 TVET institutions that are under Rwanda Polytechnic. Now, and you're giving these people 21 billion, which is a significant drop from what I think was being dedicated to this sector previously. At one point, they actually got to more than 60-something billion, 64 billion if I remember well. So what are our priorities? If we actually want more people to go through TVET system, but we are giving it less budget compared to University of Rwanda, which you want to take less students,
8%.
Something's not adding up. Of course, I know University of Rwanda had their own issues, but I think things are being turned around. They're getting more funding. So maybe these are things that stakeholders in the sector
I'm sure
we want to address or we'll keep discussing, but I think there are things that are not adding up somewhere.
I'm sure Rita and Dr. James they're going to, respond to some of the comments that were raised by James. But let me engage him briefly. What is the situation of IPSC graduates on the labor market, briefly?
Okay, thank you, Ethan. The situation of graduates, I think, for now, is quite good. Not much better than we think it could be, but as he recently said the results of the survey they have conducted, we are doing good, but not as we wish it could be. Yeah.
So what is it? What are the challenges that you guys are having? Probably you can as well tell us, how did you end up in the brewery?
Okay, yes. Thank you. First of all, I would like to come back to the numbers he mentioned, but the conventional way of hiring employers in this country have been based on universities, and polytechnic students are new compared to universities.
Yeah.
Rwandan University have been here since many years than Polytechnic.
Yes.
And for now, as he was saying, we are in 40% and something compared to the university students.
Yeah.
I think it is the culture of those who hire people.
So
those
the
who
mindset, they're still focused on the university graduates.
Of course, yes. So I think there's still much work to do. I think I'm happy that Vice Chancellor is here. I think you have too much work to do, because on the market, people they still think they still think that university students they have much knowledge than us, but I don't think it's true, because as when we study, we have we go to the workshops, we have even theoretical studies, but also we have practices. So I think that's a good package for us to transform the whole industry, the whole industrial,
the economy.
Yeah, the economy. Yes, yes.
That's true.
So I think there's still much work
the
to do.
employers, the same survey, and this is a government survey, by the way. This is a survey by the Workforce Development Authority and Higher Education Council. It actually shows that the employers are being responsive. They're actually starting to appreciate the kind of quality compared to previous, mentality or attitude. There's some improvement because, like I said, 78.2% of employers appreciate the quality of TVET graduates, compared to 74.6%, who appreciate the quality of university graduates. So the employers, I don't think, yes, there is still a challenge. I'm not saying it's not there, but for me, the biggest concern is, are we even sure that these people, these young people, these young Rwandans are empowered enough? For instance, if we are promoting TVET because we want to have more of a practical-oriented kind of training, are actually offering that?
Yes.
Is that what we're delivering today? And when you say more of practical, at what percentage? Are we looking at 70%, 80%? And then the rest should be theory. Where are we today? I doubt we're even 50%. But we think we're doing, actually, delivering practical skills. Yeah.
James, you want to intervene?
Yes, I wanted to intervene on both. I was in that survey, the presentation when it happened, and I wouldn't argue on the findings. Rather, I would argue on the thoughts that it left me with. As he said, it was like, to me also it was a shock, as like, you mean university graduates are doing better than TVET, yeah, especially in the same areas? And one of my thoughts is, let's take an example. When we started back then in 2010, and after almost 10 years, look at the numbers, as you said, the people who were joining TVET. If you look at the numbers, and if you look at how the infrastructure-wise and the funding has been going on, you look at, if you had a class of 30, and today maybe you have a class of 60, that tells something in terms of what maybe he was even talking about, about the practicals. Also, that to say that in the first years, there was not even a kind of a comparison. TVET was new, and there was so much focus. And I would also say that in terms of people joining, if I give an example of Tumba, Tumba had the first people joining who were already in the market, who wanted to improve their skills and get also academic recognition. So that also was a motivation they performed well, they had exposure, they were few on the market, they could get practical exposures, they could get industrial attachment, industries could join. But as we have increased the numbers, you seem likely see, if we tend to check on the numbers, you see that the case, let's say, you'd see that the numbers they haven't doubled, they have, it's like 10 times. And yet, if you look at the infrastructure-wise, if you look at the industries outside, you won't see the same growth as significance as such. Also, the other good thing that I took away with the survey was more of our graduates are also tending to want to join university after they graduate from us because of the pressures. He was talking, the pressure of the paper. Having a bachelor degree, it's a requirement in most of the job offers.
So that's actually a good observation over there. So
yes.
Because it's so part of the government requirements. If you want to apply in a government institution, you must have a bachelor's degree. So you think the laws, the policies have not been favorable enough for the Rwanda Polytechnic graduates?
It's somehow changing. In some cases now, if they know that it's a technician job, they say or equivalent, which is necessary. Don't mention A1 as the degree that we are offering. And for most of the graduates, it has put a pressure of wanting to add more papers rather than joining the labor market. But I think this issue of the qualification, you have been raising it. Some people, especially in the private sector, I think they appreciate, the first instinct it will be appreciating skills rather than paper, which is a good thing. And we are also, there's time someone was asking, why do we even put a paper rather than a competence? We should say someone who knows how to fix ABCD, someone who knows how to do ABCD, rather than saying someone who has this paper. So that one would shift. Yes, you'd have a paper and competences and they could deliver, but it would shift the focus on the paper, which most of our graduates have been suffering from. Maybe that's also the tendency of, we see that how often are they getting job? Because they tend to first get the paper again, and after that they join the job market, and they are counted as the university graduates. They have did TVET, they join the university, they go to the market. And when the survey is conducted, they are university graduates. Yes, so that also happens, actually. Yeah. And it may add on the numbers also. But we can't argue that we need more funding compared to what we used to have. We need also to revise some of our curriculum to adopt it to the market. We need the industries to chip in and to tell us we need this and this. We need them more than like before, because the job market is changing and you have the competition all around. So we need to stay focused, and we need to see the labor market coming in more often than accusing us that we are not happy because of this, we are not happy because of this, and we are open. I think our Vice Chancellor will talk more about it, but he's more someone who has initiated more partnerships with us, yes, to tell them, come in, we need you. We have this, how can we work together? So,
Vice Chancellor, the comments, the numbers.
Yes, yeah, they are very valid, and we are very much aware of what he raised. We do reflect about them ourselves when we get together to self-examine. Because there is a high expectation, we must deliver. So there's not it's a kind of self-defense or trying to say, no, it's not that bad. Actually, for me, even if it was 70% or something, I would still say that's not good enough, because there is an expectation. We've set the bar high and we want to achieve. Now, what Rita, my colleague, was saying, we've inherited a system of which we are all victims, where papers is very, very important. Sure. Instead of competency. If you look at countries like Germany, they put a lot of premium on competency, on what you know, on what you are able to do, rather than just on the papers. And let me elaborate. You can know a lot about things, something, but not be competent to do it. You can be very good at drawing the engine, but know nothing about really how to fix that car. So that's what we focus on. We focus on knowledge and also practical. Now, have we been doing it very well? Probably not as well as we should. And we want to do it better, and we are looking and learning from others who have advanced a little more than us. But I think Roger was also mentioned, and also James mentioned about the trend in the last couple of years. Now, me, I'm new in the system, but I was shocked when I came in, and our budget by that time, 2017, 2018, was 15 billion. And when these people who were in the system said, oh, there's a time we reached 60 billion. And really, that's when things were moving. And you could see that target of reaching 60% of our youngsters going towards TVET was you could see a trend. And then all of a sudden it started dropping. And then I was saying, so we were soul searching, saying what happened. Are we doing a bad job, or has there something been? So we have to interact more with our stakeholders. Government is one of them, but it's really unfair to think that all those resources have to come from Minecofin. It's the cake is this big, and there are many other demands. And I was in February. In February, I was in Germany, and one of the things I really wanted to know, because I know they have a good system, I had my eyes open. How do they do it? And I realized actually it's not so much government funding like here, because TVET is extremely expensive. Yes. It's like twice, 3, probably 4 times more expensive than teaching at university. Because here we learn not by sitting in a chair and the teacher goes and writes notes. You actually have to do. If you are a builder, if you're doing masonry, it's cement, there's nothing, and sand. And if you're a carpenter, it's wood and nails and all those things. You use them, and then you have to buy them again. So I realized that when in Germany, it's actually industry which foots the bill. Like 90% of all the cost of training a youngster in TVET is borne by industry, not by force, not by big stick from government. They just want to, because they say the person we are training is ours. We are the consumers. So let's participate in the making of this product that we want. So they take lead. Actually, they own it, so much so that they are the ones who demand how universities teach. They are the ones who are on the driver's seat, so to speak. They determine curriculum, they determine assessment, how the students are examined and assessed. They do everything. Now, can we do that here? Still small industry, but we have to start somewhere. And that's where we want, with my team, we've incorporated it in our strategic plan. We want to engage industry. When I say industry, I mean the labor market. So sometimes we think industry is a big factory with so many. No. Even a tailor who has a small shop can be our partner in this. To have a youngster come and sit alongside him or her and start learning. And that's where we want to go.
Sure. Quite a number of questions coming up, and for that reason, allow me to take us for a short break and read some of the comments that you already have sent via our Twitter. And remember, if you want to send us a comment or an opinion, the hashtag is InFocusRW. Let's go for a short break. When you come back, some of the comments and opinions or the questions that you've sent to the people who are on this panel.
ubuzima ni ingenzi kandi ubuzima ni urugendo ufite ubuzima nta cyiza atageraho iyo urwaye utakaza byinshi birimo umwanya umara urwaye igihe cyo kwivuza utaretse n'ubushobozi uryamye aha ntaba arimo kwiteza imbere nyamara ubuzima burarindwa burabungabungwa yewe buranasigasirwa ibyo byose biterwa n'agaciro k'ibyo urya n'imyitozo ngororamubiri ukora inzira ni iyi rero ikiganiro cyacu kidufasha gusobanukirwa indwara zitandukanye ndetse no kuzirinda abaganga batandukanye b'inzobere tuzababagereraho badusangiza ubunararibonye bafite indwara zose mudasobanukirwa uru ni rwo rubuga inama zitandukanye ku mirire n'imyifatire niyo ntego y'ikiganiro buri gihe imeri izahora ari yayindi menya wirinde
Welcome back. We're still talking about the role of Rwanda Polytechnic in delivering Rwanda to a skilled-based economy, a knowledge-based economy. And here are some of the comments that have already come through. We have one from Juvenal Turatinze. The topic should give a positive perspective over there. It should read, is Polytechnic education an effective path to skilled-based economy? Good one. I believe Polytechnics is the best education to provide needed skills. Thank you so much, Juvenal. I'll go to the next one here. Kevin is actually the co-founder of Uzuri K&Y, one of the biggest, I think, manufacturers of shoes in Rwanda, private sector here. IPRC is a great idea, but the school might need leaders with an open mind. It is being led by people with an old-fashioned education. Bring in young people with an updated take and steady idea. Thank you so much, Kevin, for your comment. I believe someone will read them and want to act upon that. Barija Sam, Ethan Tashoga, great discussion and impressed with the good choice of panelists. Regarding the recruitment, please be informed that the reason why the percentage of universities is higher is based on the biggest employer in Rwanda, public institutions. Look for degrees. This should change as soon as possible. What we are actually talking about, this should change. I don't know if you believe in this. You'll probably give us some of your thoughts. Then I have this one from Habui Teka Francois Regis. Polytechnic education has proven itself to be the right alternative to boost skills and best economy. Skills-based economy. In Rwanda, we have the right policies and graduates have shown that it is possible. This gives us the hope that the kind of education Polytechnics offer is the right alternative. Let me check if I have another comment over there. Then we have Nwarane Confident. Ethan Tesheve, this looks like the government and Rwanda Education Board has put up the technical schools to increase the number of entrepreneurs, not giving them the jobs. And this is what the young generation should be working on. So there isn't any inferiority, but the increase of the economy. But let's first look at this this number. I think it's a comment from Barije here, who said that the biggest number of employers are the government. How do we change this? I know you're part of the government. I know you discuss with the Minister of Education. How do we change? How do we push for competence rather than the paper like he's saying? How do we make sure that the biggest employer, which is government, is flexible enough to accept competence over papers?
Thanks, Ethan. Actually, the way I would respond to that is that our goal should be, if you look at what James Mnyaneza was saying, actually, private employers, like in industry, they do like to employ people from polytechnics who are hands-on. But remember, private sector is still small, so the biggest employer is still government, which bureaucratically uses paper. You know, that's how they determine who they employ. They just go to interview. They want to know your qualifications and your experience, how many years you've been working, instead of what you are able to do. So the only change to this is when we have more and more people who are self-employed, who appreciate the quality of someone who is a hands-on. Now, I'm not saying that people from university, because that's the trend also. We want people from university to be hands-on and also thinkers. So there will be, sometimes most things start with legislation. So in countries like Korea or Singapore, there was purposeful legislation. So sometimes you have to change things by intention, not just wait and say, oh, when things you know, are in place, things will, when things reach a certain stage, they will fall in place. Sometimes we are in a hurry, and therefore legislation is required. And I think when competency-based recruitment, as much as we are now teaching according to what we call competence-based teaching and learning, is appreciated, then things will change. Now, let me make a comment about leadership. It's extremely important to put people in place, especially, as I mentioned earlier, the future, okay? The future is changing. You know, the jobs we are training for, some of them are not there. And therefore, to have young people at the center is extremely important. How do you do that? If you are a bit older like me, I make sure that I surround myself with young people and empower them and believe in them. Okay? And that's what we are doing. And especially as you know that you'll be retreating and putting forward young people who are forward-looking, who, you know, you can go on the sidelines and be their cheerleader. You say, yeah, you are doing a good job. So that's why people who are a bit older should be doing. They should be nurturing young talent, putting them in the right positions of decision-making, and that's what we are doing.
You're actually partly responding to a comment that was raised by Kevin, but James, you want to respond?
I kind of get a bit concerned when the Vice Chancellor, you know, sounds like he's basically frustrated also, you know. He's not in a position to make things happen when he says, you know, that, oh, the money was cut. And I was also surprised. And so maybe the question should be going forward, what is the university or the Rwanda Polytechnic leadership doing to make sure that our TVET sector gets the funding it needs, whether it's from government or elsewhere. But of course, government is a key player in this. It is too early to expect TVET system, the training institutions, Rwanda Polytechnic and the institutions overseas, to stand on their own at the moment. And I think that's what they reversed concerning the University of Rwanda, because it is too early to expect them to start generating, you know, funding from research, say from their own community, you know,
even their
initiatives,
own
from different projects. It is too early. They need to first stand on their own feet. They need to have the relevancy first. They need to appeal to a wider, you know, public. They need to convince everyone, all the stakeholders, that this is the right thing we should all be supporting. And I think from the comments we're receiving and the general feedback, you get a feeling that, you get a sense that the public are actually starting to embrace this whole concept of TVET. But those who are supposed to be implementing this and promoting this and actually making it relevant,
they're letting them down.
I don't think people are putting in their best effort.
Sure.
Because just about when everybody's saying, oh, yes, I think TVET is the right way to go, everybody's, oh, and then all of a sudden, there's no funding. All of a sudden, you are not able to attract the best trainers who are in the industry here, in the telecom sector.
Yeah.
These are the guys who should be, to answer partly somebody, I think it was Kevin, you know, to bring in people who are actually making things happen in the industry here, to be, even if they come on,
open-minded,
even if they came on board as on part-time basis, so that you really create that linkage, you eliminate that disconnect, so that the industry directly plays a part, but not just in terms of training, but also in terms of curriculum. I know at some point, a couple of years back, there was a pilot effort, I think, to try to sit down, you know, the industry would sit down with the WDA and the other stakeholders. They would come up with a few curriculum, you know, documents, which they did. But would you confidently say today that actually the curriculum that we have in all these TVET institutions is informed by the needs of the labor market? I doubt that's the situation. And yet that should be the case. Yes, others are doing it. Germany is doing it. Others are, why are we not doing it?
Good question. Rita, you want to, yeah, sure, yes. Okay. Rita.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing up this idea of funding and all those stuff regarding economy and government supporting TVET schools. But what I think is, yes, it is good to fund more money in the system just for it to be more empowered. And it is all good for us. At the end of the day, it is all graduates who are getting more support and the good package just to bring to the market, be it to be employed or to be self-employed too, just to create jobs that solve the problems of this country. But also, I would like to mention that, what about the resources that are in place even today? What are we doing with them? The comment I would like to say is, students nowadays, graduates from Polytechnic schools are having this problem of industrial attachment or internship, if I may say internship.
Good question there.
Yes. I think the problem is not students who don't go to the right place looking for internship. I think for me, I would like to suggest that the government and RP, I think RP should play a big role in that issue, because students, we are just students actually. But for example, if I come here in RBA looking for internship, and then they tell me, go back, we talk to you, we reach out to you, like when we saw that that there is a place where you can come and we train you. But we go, and then there's no response. But I think there should be a broad partnership between RP and
industry.
Yes, and industry, those who are supposed to give us internship, because at the end of the day, they're going to blame us for not having those skills. Yeah. But I think we have done enough. Yes, we don't have opportunities just to raise our skills. Yes, of course, we have skills, hands-on skills, but we need to sharpen them. Yes.
Interesting. We have less than 5 minutes, so let's be quick in our responses to some of the questions that were raised.
I liked the comment. All of the comments show that there's a good perception of TVET. People are supporting our graduates. They think we're on the right track. Yes, we have challenges. Some of them raised was like, we are growing. Our graduates shouldn't be thinking of getting jobs, but rather than creating jobs. Maybe to comment on that, we have been embracing a new curriculum the CBT, CBA, the competence-based training and assessment, which we hope that, we trust that it will really give the competences, and it has an entrepreneurship part which should guide, which should help and support the student to start from earlier on thinking of how do what I'm learning, how can I make a business out of it? And we hope that also there is many initiatives like access to funding, the BDF and so on, and we believe that by connecting them to the right financial support, they could do something out of what they are doing. Sure. So I would also comment on the issue of partnership with industries. Yeah, sure. At least, if you look around, you'll find that each college, we have the MOU signed, we have industries that we are working closely with. But again, looking at how our industries are evolving, they're still at area stage that you'll be surprised that even the part-time job that we're talking about, you can't get someone there. You call them for the curriculum, they send the secretary sometime, someone who doesn't have something to do at their places. Sure. So somehow we don't blame them, they are where they are, and we are where we are at. It is your task to get them on board. Yes, sure. That's what I wanted to say. Yeah. What we are trying to do is to show them we really need you here. This is your role. This is our role to develop the curriculum, but we need to know what you want. Yeah. We are academicians. You need our people. So we need to meet somewhere at some point, and we need to do something about it. We both agree on that concept at least, and that's a good starting point.
My director tells me we are left with 2 minutes, and I want you to address this question. 400 out of 2,000 graduates who are girls. What is the problem here? How come we are seeing a few number of girls joining this? We have 2 minutes to respond to this.
Okay, when you say why, everything must start somewhere. We've inherited, it's a cultural things, the way we look at things, even in lower schools. We have to do it intentionally. We are about to start a national awareness campaign to make youngsters, even as low as primary school, have a desire, see that there is real possibility of expressing their talents through TVET. So young women can see that they are able to achieve anything they want in TVET with their brothers, but we have to start somewhere, and that's done by us in leadership, encouraging them, and role models like she's an engineer. Yeah. So, that's what it takes. You start somewhere, you build it, like we've achieved a high number in Parliament. It was done because someone decided to do it. It didn't just happen. There was policy, there was intention, and that's what we are going to do with
you girls. Want to...
Practically, I want to comment on 2 things. And
please, we have less than a minute.
We have to do it intentionally. We have to put in place the measures that allows women to join TVET. One, looking at academic side, we should do more about even the leadership, which is inclusive. We are 8 people at Polytechnic, and I'm the only woman. I'm not a super one. I'm the only, but I'm not super. There are others who can also join. Second, in academic setting, we have few women who are in tech, who are really on the technical side teaching the girls. What the message does it send? It sends a message that, yes, this is things for men. It's not really, those ones are superheroes, and yet it's not the truth. So we need to do something intentionally. We need to bring in more women, and we need to start, as Vice Chancellor is saying, to start within our household. How are we educating our kids? Are we protecting our girls, telling them, do not take risk, do not climb that tree, do not go up to that house? So we need to start from the household. We go to classrooms, we do the role modeling, we do the mentorship, and we do intentionally. we put in place even the leadership which is balanced, gender balanced, and also in teaching we became gender sensitive.
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And this, allow me to end it here. 10 seconds.
Yeah, sure. One, I think we risk having our system, TV system, getting stunted. I think we need to have a round table, everybody around that table, so that we chat out, you know, the people in charge can chat out and other stakeholders contribute to chatting all the way forward. Number two, I think we need to be more relevant. There are so many things that are the digital economy that people talk about, the big data developments, all these things that TVET can help to promote here. Thank you.
James Mnyaneza, thank you so much. Roger Ishimwe Karangwa, thank you so much for joining us. Engineer Rita Clemens Mutabazi, thank you so much. And of course, Dr. James Gashumba, Vice Chancellor of Rwanda Polytechnic. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us here. And for you who is watching, thank you so much for following this conversation in focus. And this brings us to the end of our tonight's show, but it doesn't end here. The comments are there to be welcomed, and of course I believe Rwanda Polytechnic will be taking some of them into consideration. Of course, what next? News in English. I am Ethan Tashovia. Have a good night.
bihurira mu by'ukuri ubusanzwe Bertrand umuntu ukunda kugaragara neza
King na modeling King ni umumodel so I'm a model and personal trainer byose mbikora icyarimwe